What's cracking in the skillet, people? It's your boy E, and we are on another edition of Eric Speaks. Thank you for joining me tonight. Now, we're going to get right on into this. This story may be a little bit old to some, but I believe because of its relevance and because of the potency that it holds, that it is still something that we need to discuss. And so at the end of this, I will be very, very, very pleased and happy to hear your thoughts on this. That topic that I'm talking about is the alleged beef between veteran filmmaker Spike Lee and newbie successful filmmaker Tyler Perry. Now, in a 60 Minutes interview that was conducted by reporter Byron Pitts, he interviewed Tyler about statements that were made by Spike Lee in regard to his work. Now, apparently the way that the story goes, Spike Lee was sitting down watching TV one night and happened to see a few of Tyler Perry's commercials for Meet the Browns and some of the Medea projects come across the screen. Immediately, he was kind of disgusted with it, and as the story holds it, he kind of scratched his head and said, is this what it's come to? What in the world? And so basically, in a nutshell, he is comparing Tyler Perry's works and the success that he has now unto the 1940s show Amos and Andy. And if you're not familiar with Amos and Andy, I suggest that you go and look up information on that with Google, and you'll see exactly where this is coming from. In Spike Lee's words, he is calling Tyler Perry's works coonery and buffoonery, and basically just saying that it holds no relevance, it's watered down, basically puts African Americans in a very negative light, and it's kind of disparaging and degrading to the African American community. And so I think that is, something that is very important to bring up. Now, before we go into the points that I have, I think the first thing that I wanted to talk about was how interesting it is with the media when they take an excerpt of what someone says and magnify it. For instance, the statements that were made by Spike Lee, they're zoning in on the worst of it. I'm not sure if that's all that he said or not. I'm not sure if he had good things to say and they just pulled out the one bad line. I'm not sure. At times, what he is saying appears to be reflective, and then at other times, in layman's terms, it appears that he's hating on Tyler. So it's kind of, hard to understand, really where Spike Lee is coming from. Likewise, the main clip that you may find if you go out there on YouTube and search is a 1 minute and 13-second clip, I believe it is, where after Byron tells Tyler, what was said about him by Spike, the first thing that comes out of Tyler's mouth is, well, I would like to read that to my fan base. And with that one statement that everyone keeps zoning in on, it's kind of another gray area. You're not sure if Tyler is being holistic, and saying that he really cares and would like to share that with his fan base, or if it's coming from a narcissistic point of view to where it's like, well, look at, what I've done. The funny thing about it, I did more research, and when I actually went and saw the entire interview that Byron did with Tyler, I got a totally different perspective, which is why it led me to do this video tonight, so that we can, look at this with a wider eye. Now, first of all, the first point that I had is this yet again a moment where black people can't get along? Now myself being African American, of course this is going to be important to me. There seems to be in so many different cases, with the African American community, a lot of dissension, where it's almost like crabs in a bucket. One person gets up, everybody wants to bring them down, and you see it all over the place, and it happens with every culture, but in particular with this particular story that we're dealing with, it does happen a lot in the African American community. I'm sorry. Now, the second point that I had is we definitely applaud Tyler's lightning speed accomplishments, and to hear Tyler's perspective, Medea is a direct depiction of the women that Tyler grew up with, the upbringing that he had, that down home, raw wisdom, this is just how it is, baby, that type of perspective. And so is it so wrong that Tyler is showing this to the world? This is how I grew up. This is my reality. That's one of the positive ways to look at it. Now, on the flip side of that, the argument seems to be that every time that African Americans are portrayed in entertainment, that it always has some type of joke on it. There's always some type of shtick that is used to either poke fun at serious issues or just to make complete fools of ourselves. And so it's those arguments, you know, right there that kind of are putting Tyler in a very questionable light right now. Now, likewise, as I was saying earlier, you have Spike Lee that I said right here. We appreciate Spike Lee's depictions in his film work. Everybody is familiar with, you know, Jungle Fever and Crooklyn and so many different movies that he made to show his aspect of the African American community. And so now again with that, we're not sure. I guess one question that I had is, instead of saying a statement like that, is there not a way that these two great minds can't come together and it's not even about reconciliation, but developing a camaraderie and a collaborative effort that, you know, two can be stronger than one. You know, why does it always have to be that we have to throw one thing out and, you know, when it comes down to it, it's everybody just rah, 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 and fighting each other. It's just nuts. So, you know, finally what I was saying with all this is that it's really interesting to me how both filmmakers are kind of doing the same thing, and I wish that they would see that. We've seen Tyler and Spike Lee both depict the negative and the positive aspects of the African American community. You know, both of them have had drug addicts, you know, be part of their films, be like the main focus in some of their films sometimes. At the same time, they both have also showed the economically affluent aspect of the African American community. You know, we don't need to get it confused that, you know, everybody is running around with the pants sagging and, you know, and talking with, you know, incorrect English and just, you know, so many things that are used to stereotype African Americans. But they're showing a wide array of the African American community. So in conclusion, is this yet again just art? Is it really just two people looking at the same thing and having a different perspective? That's the problem with art. You know, that's the good and the bad thing with art. And I've said this before, the good thing about art is that you can have an opinion. The bad thing, ironically, about art at the same time is you can have an opinion. So, you know, what do you feel about this? How do you feel that African Americans are portrayed? And what do you agree with the way that Tyler Perry puts together his films? And is his way bad and Spike's is better? Or does it need to be a situation where we need to applaud Tyler for what he does and that Spike needs to just maybe broaden his horizons and kind of embrace this? You know, where do you think all this dissension is coming from? So again, just kind of post your comments below. I'm interested to hear that, and I will see you next time on Eric Speaks.